So, story time. The previous owner of our Maltec had Harop E-lockers installed in Texas somewhere, and they didn't do a very good job. As you can see, this bearing lock tab is loose, and this one we actually found along with the missing bolt when we drained the differential out. Oops. Thankfully, neither had got caught in the ring and pinion gears.
I'm Kelsey, that's Tim, and this is our rolling home Dusty. We hit the road full-time a few years ago to follow our dreams of driving around the world, and we headed south.
We did it.
COVID brought us back to the States, but there is plenty of adventure to be had here while we wait out the pandemic. So come along and enjoy this crazy ride we call life.
Okay, quick update. We have a bike in the back, as you can see. We're bringing that bike that we borrowed back now because we're getting ready to leave. Thank you, Ben, for letting Tim borrow that bike.
Yes, thank you.
And we have gotten the diffs pulled from Dusty. They are in buckets in the back here as well. And so now we are heading to Phoenix to drop them off so that our friend Ken Zook, is his last name Zook?
No. His nickname is Zook, and that's what everyone calls him.
Yeah.
But his name's Ken, and I won't say his last name. I don't know if you want to.
It's Zook, Ken Zook.
There you go, Ken Zook. But he's a great guy.
He is really awesome.
And he is a legend when it comes to setting up gears. Now, almost anyone could set up a ring and pinion, so it works. But I've really only found Zook and a handful of others to be so meticulous that they can set them up so they're perfect forever.
Yeah, and he did Tim's Forerunner before,
and then
he did
before that the Forerunner.
Yeah, he did Goose.
And I met him because he was fixing gears for a lot of other people who had their gears made a little noise, vibration, they wore out quickly, and so I met him because he was fixing everyone else's gears. He gets sent ring and pinions from Dubai, from Europe, from all around the world in 5-gallon buckets with lots of padding, and they ship them all the way to Chandler, Arizona. We're just lucky that he happens to be that close.
Yeah.
So we get to just drive to go visit Zook. So we got about a 2-hour drive, and he's going to fit us in, thankfully.
Yeah.
He's offered to kind of put us to the top of the list to go through them real quick, and hopefully by tomorrow, maybe the next day at the most, I'm hoping, we'll be heading south, and we'll be putting the gears back in, knowing they're going to be good for a really long time.
Yeah. And Dusty is just hanging out with no tires and kind of torn apart right now at Brent's house. So.
And so we're taking up our buddy's lift, but he says he's got no projects until next week that need to lift. So we're, again, super appreciative that this crazy not having a home and then having to basically make your home immobile.
Yeah.
All this sort of works because of other people being very kind.
So that's what we're doing, and we'll take you along.
Woo!
2 hours later.
Okay, so here we are. This is Ken, but just like Clark Kent, he also goes by Zook, like Superman, when he's working on diffs. So look at this is the play that's in the locker here.
Okay, that's a lot of play. That's because it's worked its way, spread a little bit, the tab, and worn on the side a little bit. And so that's a 1/2 inch. It should be 2 millimeters, about spark plug gap width.
Okay.
But
and it just does it itself with those 2 detents on either side. It kind of bends them out over time.
Yeah.
Okay.
It kind of bends them out. So the trick is to just grind in on the, into the bearing cap.
Yep.
And then tap this in, and then it's captured
and
inside.
And it has a little bit of a channel to sit in.
It's got a channel to be in, and it doesn't grind, against the side all the time and widen and spread.
That makes sense.
Doesn't do all that.
Yeah.
So that's the solution for that. It's not mentioned in the
install
instructions.
Got it.
Eaton. It's not mentioned.
Yeah. And then the other thing we noticed just a second ago is that this wire here was so tight that the reason it wasn't slipping as easily
was because
actually that was pulled out so tight, it was acting like a limiter to this, which means the wire could have failed at some point.
Yeah.
So you never know. Yeah. That's a lot of movement.
Yeah.
But we'll update further.
Yes, more to come.
And I think that bolt's been loose for a while. And then this one, I didn't even touch it. That's how loose it is. So it's, what is it? Maybe one more rotation and it'll come out. Yeah, like 1.5 more.
They forgot to do the last step.
Right?
They forgot to do the last step.
She's got it pretty good, I think.
She's got it very good. She has freedom to go in and out of the house
Yeah.
when she wants, basically.
Got safety and warmth when she needs it.
Yep.
And she brushes herself, so there you go.
Yeah, exactly. You just hold it, and then everything else is good to go.
That brush to a piece of wood or something.
You should just brush yourself all day long.
What year Land Cruiser is it?
It's odd one. So it's a 1990,
Oh.
but it's an 80 series. So a year earlier than we got them in the U.S.
Oh.
An HDJ 80, so it's that diesel one.
Yeah.
But it's a full float. So it's got the rear axle like we got later.
Do they do all the diesels with full float? Because that's a lot of torque.
I think so. And I think that may have been the reason they got it so early and we didn't get it till later. There's a few weird things. This is, I think, if it's factory gearing, it's like a 3.73, very high speed gears, but it's a diesel, so it doesn't rev very high. So the 3.7 gears are really only good for about 70 miles an hour. You know, we don't really go that fast. But that gear set I've never heard of coming even on the Japanese ones, but I guess they figured Europe, you know, you got the Autobahn, so they're like, well, let's give you the lowest gears of any, or the highest gears of any 80 series.
I have had a customer order these for me from Australia, these 373s.
Yeah.
Yeah. How many miles on this?
On that one,
Differing opinion.
I think if it's original, the whole truck has 250,000 kilometers, so what's that in miles?
So I don't know what I'll find for a pattern.
Yeah, I really don't know. And besides this locker, I don't think it had been opened. And the guy had the locker installed about a year and a half ago. So not many miles ago was the Eaton Harrop put in. He did it, some shop in Texas, you know, didn't quite do it right, but hey. And
We'll
this
just
is
take 2 teeth here and see what it looks like.
kind of the last component mechanically of the truck we haven't had apart, and I probably should have just done it.
This is an important part when you're in a different country.
I know.
I'll just put it down right there. Get my rag here.
It's cool to see the Eaton on there because they're marketed as Harrop, you know?
Yeah.
And I'll get
And so because Harrop has like the licensing, does Eaton even sell this model? Or do they let them have all the Land Cruiser models for themselves, so to speak, under the Harrop name? Just make them for Harrop.
Harrop and Eaton are kind of related.
Oh, okay.
So it's available. I got 3 right in the closet there, 3 brand new ones.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, right from Eaton too.
Yeah. Just back and forth a couple times. Okay. Nice.
Nice.
I use a flashlight to help light it up, especially for camera work.
Yeah.
You can see it right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And now, what would you say
That's a
about
very nice
that
drive
pattern? The depth of it and the
Beautiful.
looks like a nice width, huh?
It's centered.
Cool.
It's got good definition. And on the coast side, nice. Rather good.
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah, it looks good.
Not too far out on the teeth, not too far in.
Yeah. It's nice for that many miles on it.
Cool.
Speaks well of the Toyota gears.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, I'll just take a closer look at it, your pinion seal.
Okay, cool.
Awesome.
Day 2.
All right, day 2 of this getting the diffs taken care of saga. We got a cheap hotel last night because it took overnight. Obviously, we didn't expect it not to, but we weren't sure. So it's now the next day, and they are ready for us to pick them up. So we've got
They being, let's see, Ken, Cole the cat, and Ivan the cat.
yeah, Cole
Today.
and Ivan,
And he fit us in. So he's been
Oh, it's
going
amazing,
flat
yeah.
out and literally had a doctor's appointment he had to go to and came back and then was texting us photos and details and measurements and his whole process that I'm used to, but it's so detailed. And I was like, you should probably get some sleep, you know? He's like, oh, I want to get these done for you by like noon tomorrow. So it's about noon, and about noon 30, and we just got the call that it's ready to go. So we're just trying to get some gear oil and a gasket maker, all that kind of stuff I know we're gonna need.
To put it back
to put it all back together.
The truck, yeah. So we're running around doing that kind of stuff, and then we're gonna go pick them up and head back to Tucson to start installing everything. Mm-hmm. So that's what we're up to now.
Yes. Yeah, and carrier bearings, you know, they probably were, hi. Yeah.
Probably were the same.
Yeah.
Oh, look at them. They're nice and clean now.
I know, right?
Yeah. You know, because it was drilled there instead of up there, you know,
Mm-hmm.
there's an inch.
Yep.
They don't give you much wire with these things.
Regardless, anyways, huh?
But you can see with this one, yeah, you can push them in all the way. It's not going to contact the ring. You can't pull this out too much because there's not much play even right now.
Yeah, makes sense.
You can solder something on and push it in a little bit, a quarter inch.
Yeah, use that rubber housing to maybe push the cover over a little bit.
When you heat shrink it, it's going to stop the wire from going in.
Yeah.
So anyway, this one here, you got to be more careful, you can see, because...
I see, yeah, because your
pinion's
pinion's nearby. Yep,
So
makes sense.
See what I did? How I...
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
that notch.
This is a lot better.
Yeah.
You can only move that much. No spreading.
Yep.
Bingo, everything's fine.
All right, we got the
Got ourselves a couple of diffs.
precious cargo in the back there.
All we got to do is do a whole lot of work and we're good. And buy some gear oil and solder some wires and all that kind of stuff.
There was an O'Reilly somewhere up here, I think on the corner by the light, if you want to stop there.
Cool. I will hit that up. And as always, reconfirm that Zook Ken is the nicest guy ever.
He's so sweet.
He really, you know, we had no expectations of him being able to fit us in, but he didn't, you know, I just asked what his schedule was like, and he's like, well, if you were, are you nearby still? Do you still live in Phoenix? I said, well, we're in Tucson. And he said, well, you know, I have cleared the table, and he texted me a photo of the workshop table, and he says, I've cleared the table, and it's ready for you.
Yeah, the fact that he would even, you know, stay up late to work on something for us is pretty amazing.
Pretty amazing.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you, Ken. And,
See if O'Reilly has
Gearinstalls.com. Hopefully he's taking more business. I know for 2022 he was going to do like local only. So you know, people are willing to drive their diff to him. I think he just got so many coming in the mail, these massive heavy things, and then he has to go ship them. That he just wanted some time off. So hopefully check out Gearinstalls.com.
Put the link below.
Yeah, and just to read through his work is interesting, and I learned a lot doing that, you know, decades ago when I first found him. But I still think it's interesting to look at it, and then you can always email him and ask if he's taken more jobs.
All right, let's go into O'Reilly.
All right, let's do it.
Ain't Franklin? Motel. Get her. What you'll be able to hear because of that, but you want to tell us what the project is this morning?
Basically we're going to solder on connections to this existing Power Up Eaton e-locker wiring. It had some sort of quick connectors, and Zook, the guy who rebuilt the gears, isn't a fan of those, and it makes sense to me to have a solid connection, since if these get electrical signal they will activate, but if it's intermittent they can not fully lock, and that's the one issue that he's seen and that I've heard of before with Eatons and Power Ups, is that they weren't locking properly, and so it probably wasn't a good electrical connection. So we're going to solder on connections here and a little bit of an extension of wire, so when we put it on the truck we can solder that other end and have a direct connection instead of quick connects that could get water in them. I don't know what she's getting into. So yeah, so we're just going to solder on these little quick connectors, add some wiring, and then we'll do it to the other diff, and we should be good at least as far as the diff side of things, so we can work on reinstalling, and then of course the other end we'll have to solder on the truck. So these little connectors, I'd never seen them before, but they're super nice. they're basically making sort of soldering dummy proof, which is great for me. And we want it to become a watertight connection as well, so it's sort of all in one. So you can see the solder in the center, and then these two plastics. The whole thing shrink wraps, but the colored plastic kind of locks it down and are supposed to be pretty waterproof. So I'll show you guys sort of what it looks like on this little mini example that I have. If I were doing it for real, I would say I should have made this a bit longer so they can go over each other a little more. They're both in the solder, but they're probably not overlapping quite enough. Yeah, it's dispersed into the threads now. And there you go. Sure, that little loop of solder has liquefied and gone into the threads there.
That's cool.
And then as soon as it's cooled down, yeah. So I think I'm going to put shrink wrap over the top of these just to make sure that it's watertight, and then just give it to more support as well, because it could get pulled on. Worst case, we're going to give it plenty of slack, but I'd hate to see it like full droop suspension or something like that, or if a bit of brush or something got caught on it. We'll try and zip tie it out of the way, but want to make sure it's a really, really strong connection as well. But this is pretty cool.
So you did one here already, huh?
Yep.
Alright, so while Tim works on soldering in there, I'm going to crawl underneath and clean off the other side of the pumpkin so that we can mount it and get a good seal. So that's what I'm going to work on right now. Listen to a podcast, drink some coffee, and clean that.
That and then we're rebuilding the whole axle. Move over so you can.
What's your next?
Alright, so we got it in. Gotta let silicone dry before we put any oil in it, so we'll probably do that late in the day today or even tomorrow. Got the drive shaft back on. Now we are going to solder and then shrink wrap and sort of zip tie out of the way the electrical connection for the e-locker. And once we do that, we can start putting the ends of the axle back together, put all the components on, the rotors, make sure the wheel bearings are clean and greased and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so hopefully have this little area finished up in like half an hour or something at the most, and then start finishing up this whole front end. Once we get it back together, I hope it's the last time I pull the front end apart for a long, long time.
Alright, both diffs are back in. Everything is connected. Now we just have to do this.
Yes. So it's not bad though. It's all redone. My only hope is that pulling the axles out didn't add any additional wear to the axle seal that keeps the gear oil out of the swivel area, the knuckle, because that's the one that usually goes and causes you to have to do a rebuild. So if it made some imperceptible difference, we probably won't know for a year. But other than that, everything should be pretty easy. We're just putting it all back together, making sure the knuckle has plenty of grease. You pack it when you rebuild it, and we only rebuilt it, what do you think, a month and a half ago?
Yeah.
Went to Baja and back or something like that since then. So I'm just going to make sure it's got plenty, maybe add a little bit if there's room. You don't want it completely filled, but you want it something like 3/4 of the way, pretty much solid grease in there. So we'll just make sure it's got plenty, put everything back together, brake pads look fine, and then we'll do the other side. And then we're going to wait on a shipment from Toyota, actually from Cruiser Outfitters of Toyota parts, and do new rotors and some seals on the rear.
When you're short on time, but your road is long, and you need something to get there just before dawn. Well, all you gotta do is pick up the phone and dial my number. I'm the one you want. I'm not the type that likes to boast, but I'm 24/7 and coast to coast, and ain't no women in my 18 wheels. I'm a hot shot trucker, and it's gonna get the goods of you in less than 24 hours.
Okay, so almost done with that. I was thinking about, people have been commenting and posting to our stories. A couple people have said, whoa, you're going through everything. You're doing so much. I think part of it is because this truck we haven't had for a decade, like Goose, where you just know everything, when it was done, how it was done, whether good parts were used, whether you bought something in an AutoZone because you're on a road trip, you know, and that part's in there. So part of it is figuring out what we have and learning this truck. Part of it... Oops, darn battery. What I was trying to say is that we're getting this truck ready to be far away from easy access to parts or a shop. For North America, even Alaska and Baja, the truck's dialed. But we learned our lesson that everything is harder and more expensive once you're far from home outside the United States.
Thanks for watching.
All over your feet. You stink. You smell like horse doodle. You smell like you've been eating horse poop. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. You smell like horse poop.
No audio, right?